Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Best Friends with Benefits. I am Noni.
I'm Kristen, and today we have a very special episode for you. There's this book called The Rules. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And what are the rules? The rules are a simple way of acting around men that can help any woman win the heart of the man of her dreams. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, and we're skeptical, but today we have an amazing rules coach. She's an expert, okay? This woman has saved my life on many occasions. She's here today with us to answer all of our questions and to give you an idea of what the rules are and what they can do and how they can really help you in the dating world today. So welcome, Alicia. We're so happy to have you today.
Yay! Thank you so much for joining us. We have been waiting on this episode. Trust me, you guys, if you have any dating woes or questions, you're going to want to watch this. Tag your friends that have dating woes and questions. So, Alicia, if you could just tell us what made you go down this path in the first place of, giving yourself to be a dating coach for people.
Well, I thought I didn't have very much guidance, with dating growing up at all. My mother got married at 19, and I didn't have grandmothers, I didn't have anybody guiding me. So I thought I was supposed to marry my high school sweetheart, and that didn't work out. So in 2005, I found myself in the bookstore, literally saying to myself, I need some rules. I need some guidance. I need to know what to do for dating. And I went to the bookshelf for dating, and it said the rules. Like, okay, I'll spend the $7, and just buy this book. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But this many years later, I'm still a true diehard fan of the rules, because they are just not just a dating philosophy, but it's also really great life philosophy. Even if you don't use it in terms of dating, you can use it in terms of any relationship or anything that you're going through.
This is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because I definitely this book has changed my life, and you specifically. It was so great to have a coach you through all of these situations, because it does kind of create sort of a boundary. And can you talk more about that? Like you said, more about, you could apply to dating, but it also can apply to every area of your life. So what are the rules? Like, why the rules, and why do they create such a strong boundary for people?
So a lot of people, there's a little bit of controversy, a lot of people are critics of the rules. And when you try to tell people in a little soundbite about the rules, they're just a little skeptical, like you said, because it takes a little more than just a soundbite to really understand the spirit of the rules. It's not just one rule. It's a lot of rules that make up the spirit of the rules, or the essence of the rules. So a few of them are geared toward being yourself, being your best self, and having hobbies, and taking care of yourself first so you can be in a healthy relationship before you don't want to get into a relationship and not even know yourself. So taking care of yourself, eating well, exercising, dressing the way it makes you feel good will automatically set you up to have more confidence and just be what we call quow, so creature unlike any other. And that you are a creature unlike any other. You just have to sort of work to believe it in some people's cases. So as far as some of the rules, the best way to describe it is that you have to, like you said, set boundaries. And one of them is, pacing the relationship. So you don't want to start off hot and heavy. I've seen so many of my friends just, I met this guy. I'm hanging out with him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm not coming up for air. We're just attached at the hip now. And, it's detrimental to yourself. You're giving up pieces of your friendships, and you're, ditching your friends, and you're not going to your exercise class like you were, or you're not, studying whatever it was on the side that you wanted to study. And you're giving up pieces of yourself in order to be in this relationship that's probably going to just kind of burn out at some point. Women think, I'm closer to him. He's, he wants to be with me all the time. And the men are like, well, that kind of ran its course. I'm done. I'm out. So thanks. And then you're wondering what in the world happened.
Yeah. And it's so great what you said, because I just want to tag on that. Like, it's like what attracts men to you in the first place is like you owning yourself, like you doing your own thing, taking your classes, doing your own thing, hanging out with your friends. Like that's what attracts a man to you.
Right.
And what I really love about the rules, and what with your help, honestly, too, is that you're actually helping the man fall in love with you by not being down his throat and like constantly calling him and not being needy. Like I'm dating someone right now. It's, 2 months in, and like he even said to me, he's like, I love that you give me my space and you're not needy and you have all these plans with your friends. Like you're allowing them to fall in love with you.
Right.
So,
You're creating that time that it's not just infatuation. They have the time to sort of develop the real feelings. And I mean, it's even just, chemistry, actual biology, like that. They can have the appropriate chemicals moving forward instead of just infatuation, boom, I'm done. So it helps them to look forward to seeing you and think about you and plan dates instead of just, hey, you want to hang out? It's Friday night. Let's go. And who knows if he was going to meet up with somebody else and she, ditched him. And now he's like, oh, you're second best. Let me just meet up with you. Because if you start dating somebody and you let them do that to you all the time, just last minute all the time, then you're always going to be last minute with them. And then you're wondering, well, do I have plans on Saturday or not? And you don't make plans with your friends because you're always thinking maybe me and you're on the hook. And, it's just not healthy for you to always be wondering. The rules are really helpful in knowing this is how he feels about me. This is where because he is just when you do the rules and when he is receptive to them, not everybody will be, but when he's receptive to them, then he does call you. He does ask you out in advance. He does want to spend time with you. And that you're secure in the relationship rather than just always wondering.
I love this. Okay. So my next question is, why do you think that they're so controversial, and like which of the rules are the hardest to do?
So a lot of people who are critics of the rules, they just kind of pick and choose the ones that are, they seem controversial on the surface. So one of them would be, make sure he always gives you romantic gifts. Well, automatically we think jewelry. Jewelry is a romantic gift. But it's not really about the monetary value of the gift. It's about his time that he's putting into whatever it is. So if he buys you a greeting card and writes a poem in it, that is like the ultimate rules gift. He spent time. He told you in words that he loves you and on paper. And, it's not necessarily about the monetary value, like I said, because if he buys you a computer, you would think, oh, wow, that's amazing. He spent so much money on me. He must love me. But we'd rather a $5 bunch of carnations because flowers are romantic and they're sweet. And love. If he buys you something that he could buy anybody, then he could just buy it for anybody. And that's not really that special. So, I mean,
that's so good.
I don't know if he's listening, but one of my prized possessions is my husband made me a bracelet. Like he got all these tiny little copper links and he put it together very intricately. And it's like amazing. Like he spent time on it. It wasn't super expensive, but he spent the time and it's amazing. And that's when you get that warm, cozy feeling like, oh, he does love me, instead of just
I love that. And then which are the hardest to, like when you're coaching your people, which are the rules that people are like resistant to doing?
So it really kind of depends on your personality, which ones you're going to find more difficult or more easy. A lot of us were sort of raised without knowing how to date, knowing about boundaries, knowing about how to say no. And we feel mean when we throw up a boundary, or we say, oh, look, you didn't really ask me out sooner. You don't say that, but you need to ask me out sooner than later. That way I know that I have plans for the weekend. So if you're the kind of person who has trouble with boundaries, then you're going to have trouble with the rules that involve saying no if he asks you out last minute. Well, not saying no, but saying, oh, I wish I could, but I have plans. The ones where you have to end things first, like ending phone calls and ending dates first. That, for me, was always the hardest. Like, we're having a good time and we're, he's like, oh, you like cocktails? I know this great bar that, makes crafted cocktails right in front of you. Let's go there. And it's like, oh, dude, we've already been together for 5 hours. That's a reasonable amount of time for a date. And so I'm going to have to call an end to it, and then as the night goes on, more cocktails you make, worse decisions too. So
so good.
So the other flip side is if you're feeling more like I'm an empowered woman, I don't need to follow these rules. Men and women are equal, and I'm in charge of my own company. Why can't I just? And then you're gonna have more of a hard time with the rules that involve letting him lead, like letting him introduce you to other people for his family first, or like inviting him to weddings first, or paying for dates. Like, oh well, I make just as much money or more, I could just pay for it. But it's not about the money in that situation. It's about letting him be the man, letting him. And I know that's kind of a controversial wording in itself, but rules are sort of an old-timey kind of thing. You want to give them the opportunity to fall in love with you, and that takes time. And with the advent of all this technology and how everybody has access to everybody so quickly, we as a society and technology has evolved, but the biology of man-woman relationship hasn't really. So you kind of want to live in like the 50s with that piece of it.
When you're coaching people, what do you find is the most common thing that you kind of have to shake out of, the habits you have to shake out of your clients?
There's a few. A lot of people, we're just really not taught how to say no. So, we feel pressured into having sex too soon, or we feel pressured into seeing him. We're excited about him. He's excited about us. We want to see each other often. And there's just such a thing as too much too soon. So the other thing is that when they ask you a question, you are in the rules world supposed to be honest but mysterious. You don't tell him right away about your credit card debt. You don't tell him first date, look, I'm looking to get married and have babies, and so when are we doing this? It's much more organic. You take your time. You talk about books and movies and the hobbies that make you so interesting and all those things that sort of get him to know you as a friend rather than boom, we're lovers already. So people really kind of need to they need like the help in figuring out how to slow it down, and like how do I manage like my own emotions, because I still want to see him too. And then the other one is that a lot of times men are not really taught anymore to pick us up at our homes and drop us back off. So it's how do I word it? He knows that I have this expectation instead of just coming out and saying it, because in the rules over the years, my friends and I have noticed that while they tell you what to do, they don't necessarily tell you the dialogue to do it. So that's a lot of what we spend time on, is dialogue and how to convey what I want you to sort of do for me without flatline giving an answer.
Especially in the modern world, like you said. And that's why most of the times I reach out to you, I'm like, this person sends me a text and I don't know how to respond. Or, in modern day, like the rules were written in the 90s. Like we have phones and FaceTime and all the texting and all of that. So it's like, and plus there's more of a this culture of swipe on Tinder and just come over to my house. It's just like this easy access all the time. And like you said, you're able to get someone in seconds, whereas before you had to mail a letter to get their attention or something like that.
Right. Or they had to call and get your answering machine and never really know if you got the message, and so they call back, and that was much more, and even further back, the way the rules were really originated, they say it was Melanie's grandmother, who was in the early 1900s, would pass on this information to her mother and then to Melanie, and then they eventually, and so the rules were written down in the 90s, but they've been told over time, word of mouth, for years and years and years. So as men have gotten more access to us, it's been harder for us to find happy, healthy relationships, because we fall into it too. We're like, well, it's rude not to answer a text right away, isn't it? And it feels that way at first, but you're kind of like, well, wait, I still have a life. I don't live on my phone. And even if I did, you're very new to me, or, we've only been dating for a couple weeks, months. You're not the center of my world just yet. We're still getting to know each other. So there is another newer book that kind of mentions that. I don't know if you can read.
Not Your Mother's Rules. Yeah, I have that.
Have updated a little bit, as far as how to deal with Facebook and how to deal with FaceTime and texting. that kind of thing. And it's actually age related. So if you're a little older, you're supposed to wait a little longer because, you know, we didn't grow up with our faces stuck to our phones. And then the younger generations, they have a little more of an allowance and a little more of like an etiquette that kind of goes with that kind of thing. So they guided us through that a little bit. I think it needs a little bit more of an update because things just keep changing. But I always recommend that people read the first All the Rules book because that really helps you with the spirit, the essence of it. And then you can kind of, once you figure that out, you can apply it to things that just pop up that might not be specifically written down in the book. But you kind of go, well, you know what, based on this and this, then I probably want to proceed this way. Or you can call me and I'll help you out.
That part.
Yeah.
We'll give her later for sure. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was going to say, and the rules are funny. Like, it's a funny read. Like, one of the rules is like, don't open up too fast. And the first sentence is, dating is not therapy.
Right.
Like, there's many ways to kill a relationship. It's just like, it sounds like common sense. But I think too, it's like, you know, especially we just got out of a pandemic and like people are just like, I don't want to be alone through another pandemic and I want to get into a relationship. And I think, you know, we don't think about these things like how to pace a relationship or don't open up too fast. It's like, there's such what I have learned from the rules is such a groundedness and like a basis of self-worth and self-value that you really are the prize. Like, women are the prize. And if a man isn't going to follow the rules, or not follow the rules, but respond well to them, then that's not your person. Like, it's like such a level of respect that this book gives you for yourself. That's the one thing I can take away from, I mean, all the work I've done with you and just reading the book. And that's why I was so excited to have you on the show, because I think that every woman should have this knowledge.
Yes.
Even for work, like you were saying, it could apply to work, like not being taken advantage of at work, or, you know, your certain friendships that just like use you for certain things. And it just does create yourself as such a high value person.
Right. Exactly. And then there's also the other side where they show you how to look out for the red flags. When you say dating isn't therapy, well, it's not for him either. So if he sits down and starts talking about his exes and, you know, his problems, and he's trying to use you as just an ear, you know, and I'm not talking about marriage. Like, when you're married, you talk to each other about that kind of thing. And there is a rules book for married people, just so you know. It's a whole sort of thing. Because the rules is be hard to get, but easy to be with. So once you're married, then you slip over to the more easy to be with role. You still maintain your life and your hobbies because that keeps you interesting for your husband, you know. But going back to what you had said earlier, yeah, it's about also finding the red flags, you know, that he might be throwing up and not changing him. That's one of the rules. Don't expect him to change. You know, if you find something that you don't like, you either deal with it or you say, I'm sorry, the relationship for me. Yes. So yeah, it's just called buyer beware in the rules, we say, but he's a buyer beware. If he's already like, oh, well, you know, maybe we should meet in my neighborhood and come on over. And like, he's already like being a little bit too much, you know, that's a red flag. It's a buyer beware already. Or alcoholism, or, you know, all the other things.
What about canceling dates and being late?
Canceling dates is a big no-no. If he can cancel a date, like, men don't cancel dates with women that they are drooling over. They go whether they have the head cold or not. If it's a true emergency, for example, somebody really is in the hospital, or he's a transplant surgeon, you know, then he will make it known that he is truly sorry that he had to miss the date and send you flowers or make it up to you over and over. Like, you will know if it's truly a real canceled date. But if he cancels for just, oh, my buddy came to town and I wanted to go get drinks with him, I'll see you next week. Well, no. Next. We call that next.
Even, yeah. And what about if they're late?
What if they're late? Then, I mean, they show you that they're not as interested. I mean, like, you have to gauge it, common sense. Like, did you have a flat tire for real? Or is it a chronic problem? You know, is it something that is always not respecting your time? Because that's what That's what it's about. It's about respecting your time. That's what many of the rules are about. Is, you ask me out on a date. Okay, that means you get, 4, 5, 6 hours. That's it. It doesn't mean you automatically assume you're sleeping over and then I cook you breakfast the next day and then you spend the whole weekend. And it's about respect. So if he's always being late, then you want to take that into account. If everything else is great and he's just one of those sort of loosey-goosey people who's late, just be late. Just be easy to be with and be ready an hour later than he says he's going to be. If everything else is fine. I mean, that's the easy to be with part. You just want to know this guy. I mean, I have a personal story about that if you guys want to hear it.
Yes.
When I met my husband, he would be early. Like, he would text me and say, I'm early. Would you like me to stop and have a cup of coffee, or can I just come over? And I mean, this was like all the time. And I just eventually started getting ready earlier. And then when I met his parents a few months later, they were like, oh, that guy, he's always late. And I'm like,
oh, I liked you.
He liked you.
So sweet.
Hours.
Okay, that's amazing. And I have another question. And then, Noni, you can ask more questions. But my question is, if you're already, this is for the listeners out there, if you're already in a relationship and you have not done any of the rules, can you start doing the rules in the middle of a relationship? Or if you're even married, how does that work? Or do you break up with the person?
It depends on how far the relationship has gone, depending on how you deal with it. You don't want to immediately just switch the switch tables all like quickly. But if you are accidentally, oops, I didn't know about the rules, and now I'm living with somebody, you kind of want to gauge where it's going. You ask. There are questions that you can ask and say, look, I'm wondering. It's been a couple years. Are you marriage minded or not? And you can ask that after a while. You don't want to say it in the first couple of years. But if you're living with somebody and you're thinking, well, it's been a long time and I want to know if you want to get married at some point. If he says yes, then okay, you dive into your personal life. You spend more time away. You let him come to you. You create that want, If it's a new relationship, then you can just start doing the rules. If you're married, then the rules are different. So it involves, there was an example in the book that a man always got up early to really loud music, and she couldn't understand why he couldn't just change, and not do that because he's married now. And so why can't you just be considerate of me? But it turns out that as a married person, you need to make more concessions. So you can kind of got to roll with it. So she ended up getting up early, going to the gym, letting him have his music, and got her workout out of the way in the beginning of the day. So, and it's personal, obviously, but you can always do the rules. I will say that if it wasn't a rules relationship to begin with, which means if he didn't pursue you first, it's less likely to, if you're in a hard relationship, it's less likely to ever become a rules relationship, because it just kind of failed before it started. Like, that's the harsh part of the rules, is don't talk to men first, because you will never know if he was really going to talk to you, or if he was just kind of like, oh, this attention's nice, and then it turned into something that maybe would never have materialized if he hadn't talked to you first. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard one to follow.
Ooh, this is so good. Okay, so a couple of questions. Number one, are there rules for men? Because it sounds like there's a lot of training that women have to do on our end, and it would be so much easier if they already kind of had a handbook.
Wouldn't it?
What you can do.
And
oh my God, I love that.
Well, in that they need to follow our rules or they're out. Yes. I would coach a man if he were ever to come to me, but the idea is that you're the woman, you're the one, and it says it in the marriage book. You're the woman, you're the one reading this book, you're the one who is going to put in the work, but it is so worth it. Like, because you get married to a person that nobody settled for anybody, you are both happy, and he feels like you are the best person because he worked to get you. You didn't just throw yourself at him. Men don't want anything thrown at them. Like, obviously, right. They say they do, but they don't. Because what do? What do they spend all their time doing? challenging things, right? They do sports, they do competitive things, they go hunting, they go fishing, they, and if we just throw ourselves at them, that's not fun. I mean, that's why they play video games. They want the challenge of figuring out the problem and how do you fix it. And so just giving yourself to them. Actually, there's a really good analogy in the book that I sometimes tell people to read. Is called, Kristen, you know this, Why Men Love Bitches. And so in the book, she writes, and it's bitches in like a friendly way. Like we want to be bitches because it's more clever to be a bitch than to be a doormat. But Why Men Love Bitches, she makes an analogy to hunting, and men spend hundreds of dollars and hundreds of hours like researching the moose. Where's the moose? Where is it going to go? Where's it going to live? How are they going to get the moose? They get up at the crack of dawn with their buddies, and they sit out in the freezing cold winter to get this moose. Where do I kill it so I can get it to the car because it's huge and it has antlers and we have to get it around the trees. It's really heavy. Meanwhile, that same, and then they take the moose home, they put it on their mantle. Look what I did. Look what everybody comes into the door. Look what I did. Look how great I am. And then conversely, if that same moose just shows up on their doorstep on Saturday morning, what is this garbage? Get it away from me. I don't want it. Right? So don't be the moose.
Ooh. We don't
be the moose that goes to their house. Be the moose that's hard to get.
Got to be hard to get moose.
Be hunted.
I love that. So I think we got to give the people some scenarios. This is for free 99 right now. We have a dating expert, and I know she's being so sweet right now. When Kristen tells me the advice that you give, I'm like, damn, I thought I was harsh. So I would love to just throw out some scenarios. If women are watching, they can kind of, I love what you say is not just advice, but like how to say it, right? So there might be some women that are watching, they're already dating someone. Maybe they did follow the rules. I don't know if this is in the rules, but there always comes that point where you're like, what are we? Is there a timeline for how to ask that, when to ask that? You've been dating for a minute, but it feels like you're going towards a serious relationship. How does one tactically approach that situation?
So in a rules relationship, the way it's set up is that he's always wanting more. He's always calling you. He's always can't wait for the date, planning things that you want to do. He's always trying. And so when you do the rules, you don't let him just have all access to you. That's what being married is. Once you have kind of achieved me, then, you can have access to me at any moment. So you never see them more than 4 or 5 times a week, even a year in. So they're automatically sort of prepped to want to see you more, and it spurs them on to propose sooner, or not lagging for 3 years. So after a year, maybe 2, depending on your age, he should have proposed by now, just because that's how the rules work. If you get past that point, you can say to him, look, I've enjoyed the time we've had together, and I would really like to know where this is headed. And you can ask it point blank at a certain point. You can't start with it. But I would really like to kind of know where this is headed. And men will tell you the truth. They will say, oh, I thought we were just having a good time. Or, oh, yeah, I'll propose, I think we'll get married, and then you can say when. I mean, like I said, it depends on how long you've been going out. But you can ask when. And so you don't want to rush them because they do need to have their own timeline. But you can absolutely say. And so if he says, look, I really never thought I wanted to get married and I still don't, then you just break up. It's that hard to do. You just say, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Thank you. And it's harder once you've been living with them. That's part of the reason you don't want to live with somebody too soon, because if you're not serious about it, then you've already moved in, you've joined accounts, you've, done all these things.
It makes it tougher.
Right. But what about exclusivity? Like saying, oh, we're only dating exclusively. I think it's more along the lines of that. Do you have that kind of conversation, or does that just naturally come up? Or how, what about the girlfriend boyfriend conversation?
That should come from him. All of that, he should lead the whole relationship, with the exception of the pacing. You definitely need to slow him down, because men will usually go as fast as they want to. But with with the whole I love you, he should say it first. Introducing you to his family first. Taking you to weddings first. We don't mention weddings. We don't mention marriage. There are key words you don't say. He should be asking you if you would like to be in a relationship. So the thing is, while you're not with him, he doesn't know what you're doing. You're not telling him your whole schedule. You don't share your Google Calendar with him. You don't say, oh, yeah, I have to work tomorrow, or I have, you should be dating multiple people until you are in an exclusive relationship. So that also helps you do the rules a little more easily, because you're not focusing on one guy. Why isn't he calling you? Why isn't he calling you? Well, somebody else is calling you, so it's great. But that part should come from him. If it gets to the point where he hasn't proposed after a year or two, then that's when you have that conversation. But everything else should be led by him. There was something else I wanted to add there.
No, that's good. And ladies, I know a lot of you out there like, ooh, all good. Pick up the books. Give Alicia a call. The other thing that I wanted to ask about was, even before you even get to that, there's not even a guy in sight, but how do you set yourself up to get someone that is quality? Because I've heard, like, if you're trying to meet someone, like going to a bar or a club might not be a place where you're going to find someone that is looking to date someone seriously. Do you have any advice around even where to start to look for a potential partner?
Yes. So you don't, and that's one of the things, is you don't need a group of men. You just need the one that you're going to marry eventually, hopefully. So a good place to start is things that you already like to do. So if you already like to, and they always give the example of tennis. If you like tennis, then take some tennis lessons, and find yourself, or surround yourself around people who have that same hobby. Take a cooking class if you like cooking. Take different classes. I wouldn't recommend taking classes that are women centric. Like, I used to volunteer at a cheese place, and we thought it would be a great idea to have a fondue mixer, but mostly women showed up. So
Yeah.
watch out for those kinds of things, because while men and women are equal, they have different interests. So there's, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's something like Pig Island that they have every summer. It's a barbecue, a huge barbecue with beer. Like, go there, find out where the guys are hanging.
Go where the men go.
Right. Go where the men go.
This is amazing. Thank Alicia. I love you. We're going to wrap this up, because we don't want to give too much away for free. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you to get some rules coaching?
So my blog is Advice by Alicia, ALICIA.com. You can find, like, I write different blogs about different holidays and things, and how to give gifts, and what to expect, and I kind of dive into the rules a little more just in blog form. I have an Insta, Advice by Alicia, and yeah, that's the best ways to find me. So my email is datingadvicebyalicia@gmail.com.
All right, you're about to get flooded. But thank you so much for being a part of this. I think you shed light on a lot of things and a lot of ways of thinking about dating that people did not think about before. But this has been amazing. You guys hit her up on social media. Definitely do hit us up with any questions as well. And thank you so much for listening and watching.
Thank you. See you next time.